Welcome to On Scene. I'm Mason Matthews, and I am the EMS Administrator for San Angelo Fire Department. I've got some pretty important guests with me here today. One of the guests that I do not have with me is my co-host, Joey Huffman. He is actually working, being a real firefighter. He's not doing talk shows today, but it's just gonna be me. But I'm pretty excited. I've got, I guess, like the top of the top for San Angelo Fire Department here today. Fire Chief Patrick Brody and Assistant Chief of Operations Johnny Fisher. And we've been trying to do this for a while. Chief Brody, you're the newly appointed fire chief back in 2022.
That's right.
Yeah.
2 years.
So we've been trying to kind of do this show for a while and get you guys here. We have 3 chiefs at the fire department: fire chief and 2 assistants. We're missing Chief Corey Sanders today. He's actually running the fire department while we're doing talk shows. But I want to talk a little bit and ask you guys kind of what's going on with San Angelo Fire Department. What's new? What have we been doing? You know, some of the things that maybe people have heard about, kind of explain, and just kind of the new cool things that we got going on. But I want to start with you guys. You know, who are you? Kind of your background, how you got to where you're at, how long have you been where you're at, and anything else you want to let everybody know. So, Chief Fisher, let's start with you.
Okay. My name is Johnny Fisher. I am the Assistant Fire Chief of Operations with the San Angelo Fire Department. I've been in this position for about 5 years. I've been on the fire department for almost 29 years. March will be 29 years. I was in the academy with Mr. Joey Huffman as well.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
I know. You can't pick who you go to school with. I graduated high school here in '87, went to Central High School, graduated, moved off, taught gymnastics at a private club for about 5 years, moved back, got married, been married to my wife Jennifer for 32 years now. We have 5 kids. The first 20 years or so with the fire department, I was a flight paramedic with AirMed 1, resigned there about 10 years ago. So,
a lot of experience. So I've known Chief Fisher. Your kids and I went to elementary school together, so yeah. I've known you since I was in elementary.
You were little.
School. Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. Well, I was about the same size.
Same size, yeah.
Height-wise. But I've known Chief Fisher a long time. So awesome. Chief Brody, about you?
Patrick Brody. So I'm a longtime San Angelo resident. Been here for over 40 years. I started with the fire department in 2001, right before the attacks on 9/11. I was in rookie school when that happened. Puts a lasting effect on your career when that's how you start your career. I've promoted through every rank within the organization, from driver all the way through assistant chief, and here recently, June of 2024, promoted to the fire chief.
2022.
Right, June of 2022 promoted to the fire. Did I say 24?
You said 24.
Okay.
It's all a blur.
So June of 22, officially promoted to the fire chief for the fire department. Been married to my wife, Christy, for 27 years, and we have 2 boys, and both of them are at Texas Tech right now, and most of my money's going there as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, man, tell me, just a little bit about your positions. What's your favorite? I get to work with you guys on a daily basis and see in administration and see your passion for this job, see your passion for the people that work for us. Tell me a little bit about what's your favorite part about your position now?
Well, I guess one of my favorite things that I enjoy doing now is just kind of, mainly what my position is just kind of a resource getter. So there's 3 battalions, there's 3 shifts, A, B, and C shift in the training division. So my job is just to make sure all the shifts are kind of balanced. Whatever the battalion chiefs might need or anybody, I'm kind of just to provide support, be there, and take care of them. And I just enjoy doing what I do. I love the fire department. It's been almost 29 years. I've, like Chief Brody, promoted up through the ranks. And so it's the best job I think anyone could have. It's, you get to go out and help people, provide a service, and take care of the community. So I enjoy doing that, and I just enjoy getting to provide for the floor personnel, the men and women that we have on the department. So just enjoy my job. Love it.
Awesome. What about you, Chief Brody?
So whenever you're on shift work, the excitement of the job is what drives you. The newness or something new happening every single day is exciting, and it drives you, and the call to service, that's why all of us are here. And Chief Fisher, you nailed it on the head. to serve the public. That's why each one of us raised our hand. But as we have transitioned over to administration, our focus has changed. It's no longer about our end consumer dealing with Mrs. Smith every single day. Our role now is supporting the men and women of this organization, giving them the tools that they need to be successful to ultimately serve our public. So there is a lot of things that go on behind the scene that most of our membership does not know about, most of our citizens don't know about, that happens in administration for the sole purpose of supporting. And Johnny, you mentioned this as well. Our role now is to support, get the tools, get the equipment, get the facilities, get the personnel to provide the service to the citizens. And there's a lot of small victories, but at the end of the day, the end of the week, at the end of the year, you look back and you think, we've accomplished an incredible amount for this city. So that's the rewarding part of this position, different focus.
And I'll tell you, on a personal note, again, getting to work with you all, sitting in administration day in, day out for a few years now. I've always said, as a lower rank guy, I've always thought, obviously, the fire chief and assistant chief, they are figureheads, right? Within our department, they do make the hard decisions. They do make, all these decisions that are way up above us, I guess, for lack of a better word, the other personnel. But, a fire chief and/or assistant chief only exists for the very bottom guy to call that person a chief. And I will say, on a personal note, I know you guys aren't. You both are very humble people. So I'll toot your own horns for you. I'm in awe sometimes of how much you guys care about everybody in our department, and get to see that on a day in, day out basis. And one of my favorite parts of getting to work with you two and Chief Sanders is how important every single person is in our department, which translates, them being able to take care of every one of our citizens in our city. So, pretty awesome.
I'd like to add, when I worked on the floor, it's, people would tell you, thank you so much for your service, what you do, but the way I felt when I was working on the floor, it was just your job, it's just your job. But after moving across to admin 8 to 5, and I see what the men and women do every day, I really appreciate what they do. They do a phenomenal job, and really appreciate what they do because I see it from a different point of view. Yep. So
that appreciation translates. I mean, it absolutely does, and it's very evident to all of our personnel that their administration supports them and is going to do anything they can to make their really hard job as easy as possible. I mean, it's a big deal. I know I could talk about forever about that, but I get to see it day in, day out, and it's impressive. It's very impressive. So thank you both. I think San Angelo is really lucky. I think the fire department's really lucky that we have 3 individuals that we have at the top. Some of the things we're about to talk about is directly attributed to you three and the direction that you're setting for not only the fire department, but for the city of San Angelo, maybe even the state. So it's a big deal. I'd like to start off with a topic today. In light of recent events and what's going on right now, we have the wildfires happening in California, in LA. We participate in a program that's called TIFMAS. We've been involved with that for quite some time. I kind of just want to talk about what is TIFMAS, right? I don't know if you do. I've noticed on Facebook, and there are groups right now. Texas is sending firefighters to California right now. We have gone. We as a department, a part of TIFMAS, have gone to California at least 2 times. Chief Fisher, you got to go, I believe, on one of them.
On the first one.
And kind of obviously, Chief Brody, you as the fire chief oversee everything, but Chief Fisher, you're kind of directing a lot of TIFMAS inside our department. I really just want to talk about, people see us going to these other communities, doing different things. I kind of want to just talk a little bit about TIFMAS. What is it? How does it work? What's our involvement? What does that look like? What are some things we've already done? And then, what does that mean, right? Who's paying for all of that? How does that affect us locally? How does it affect everybody on a state level? I just kind of want to ask you guys some questions on all of that and explain it to everybody. So let's start with, y'all can just fire away as I ask the questions. What is TIFMAS?
Chief Fisher, do you want to kind of cover kind of the overview of what TIFMAS is, how involved we are with it, numbers of deployments, number of deployable personnel, and then I can start talking about some of the benefits that the City of San Angelo and the Fire Department in particular receive from being part of such a program.
Okay. So TIFMAS acronym stands for Texas Interstate Fire Mutual Aid System. So it's basically a state mutual aid system for Texas predominantly, but we do assist with California, or any state for that matter. But we have been to California 2 or 3 times since 2018. So TIFMAS was created back when Hurricane Ike, 2008, was their first deployment. We got in TIFMAS around 2016-17. Our first deployment was to the Woolsey Fire in California. So it's a mutual aid system. So basically what that is, you've got all these fire departments in Texas. Let's just use Tom Green County. If you have a wildfire, which we do respond to wildfires, all hazards, which is hurricane, or we went down the border for the fire protection for the prison for a couple of years, so that's an all hazard. But let's just talk about wildfire. If you have a wildfire event and you have the volunteers show up, they have their resources personnel. If the fire is too large to be managed by the local volunteer, they may assist other volunteer departments within that county. Then the next reach would be to Texas Forest Service. Okay, so as the incident or event grows, you need more resources. So once you're tapped out with your locals, then you go to TFS, which we're very fortunate to have TFS here in San Angelo, and we work really, really well with the Texas Forest Service.
We have a great relationship with them.
Great relationship with them. So if it gets larger than that, they put in a STAR request. So basically, they're requesting resources from Texas. So that's where they'll put out a request for state resources, which is TIFMAS, and they'll build a package, they'll check availability, and then they will, different departments, they will send resources, engine, 2 engines, a strike team.
Is the state split up? I mean, are they just saying, hey, come one, come all, or do they have, is there divisions?
They have different regions.
Okay.
So they will, the way they're doing it now is you'll fill in this Google Doc sheet, put your availability. The state will see where resources are, where they need them, and then they will just fill this deployment package and send whatever you're requesting. So,
awesome.
I'm pretty sure. Tell me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. That I think Texas is probably the only state that has this program. Mm-hmm. I think other states are looking at developing and doing it, but as of now, Texas is the only state that uses this state mutual aid system to provide protection and for the state.
So, and I know, obviously I'm familiar with it, but tell me a little bit about the teams, right? There's different divisions inside TIFMAS, right? So when you said they build these packages, there's different things they could ask for, right? We talked about wildland, all hazards, there's RIM, EMTF. Talk just a little bit.
Yeah, so the wildland is a team that's, we have about probably 20 of our members that are on the wildland deployment team. So there's different, engine bosses and stints. And so they may request a Type 6 engine, which is a wildland truck, or a Type 3 engine, which is a wildland. So they will ask. We have 2 Type 6s that we can send. Chief Brody will talk about the vehicles that we have received from some of the funding. But so that's just a wildland. All hazard can be from sending resources to the Gulf for hurricane. Yeah.
The border protection thing.
Border protection. Right. They can pre-stage them, or just depending on, they have just different.
This most recent hurricane down at the coast, I know we had resources just pre-staged. They were expecting it to be a certain way, yeah. So they're really deploying us not always right after the emergency, sure. But even before the emergency.
And even in wildland, right. They can do an IA, so initial attack, or they can pre-stage and check the weather and see.
And it's pretty amazing. A lot of times they're looking at these weathers and this weather and saying, hey, sure. There's a high probability of a wildfire here, and they'll gather these resources. We'll be sometimes we're part of that package, and you go and you're just sitting there and waiting.
You're sitting there and waiting, yes.
Yeah, pretty amazing. There's some other ones, RIM, EMTF.
Yes, they don't really kind of fall under TIFMAS. It's more the Emergency Medical Task Force, but there's a difference. But yes, there's RIM, Rapid Extrication Module used that is deployed with a wildland event.
Right.
And then they have EMTF. They have medics that are So they can do a package with vehicles and emergency medical team to be there in case there is an injury on the fire line with one of the wildland firefighters.
Well, the good thing is there's a lot of training, right, that goes with that, right? For us to be able to be in the system and have some of the capabilities that's going to be needed in all these different types of emergencies also correlates with equipment. And if you're not on a TIFIS deployment, that means that equipment's right here in San Angelo and is available for use for us in everyday emergencies here locally. I want to talk a little bit about some of the equipment that we have.
I'll jump in. I'll jump in now. So let's talk about the impact to San Angelo, not just San Angelo Fire, but for our community. The Cliff Notes version of what TIFMAS is basically neighbors helping neighbors. A lot of people in San Angelo remember the wildfire event that happened in the Panhandle. It was over 1 million acres burned, and a lot of those departments up there are volunteer departments, very small in size. If the TIFMAS program was not in existence, those resources would have never gone up there.
Right.
A huge impact to our organization is if we need resources here locally, whether it be for a wildfire event or a flooding event or a tornado event, we're one phone call away from getting over 10,000 available resources, personnel, to come to San Angelo for assistance, not to mention the equipment from outside areas, from all different branches around the state. Now, if we want to talk about financial impact, this is a huge benefit to our city and our department. So the personnel that are deployed, 100% of their salary while they are on deployment is paid for by the state. Well, whenever our personnel are deployed, we have to maintain minimum staffing on duty here. Well, the state also picks up the bill for the staffing that is called in to backfill those personnel while they're on deployment. Right. So it's a zero cost to the citizens or the city for those people, those personnel to be on deployment. Now, whenever we send out personnel, we send out resources with it, whether it be a Type 6 engine, which is basically a heavy-duty pickup truck, large frame pickup truck with a fire pump on the back with all-terrain capabilities, or escalate up to a Type 3 vehicle, which is a little bit larger fire truck. If you've been watching the fires in California, Southern Cal, most of their engines are Type 3 engines. It's just a little smaller than a standard engine. Mm-hmm. Or they can request a Type 1, which is a standard fire truck, or ladder, or any particular resources that we have available. When those resources do go out, the state will reimburse us per hour that vehicle's out on deployment, from the time it leaves till the time it returns. And on an extended deployment, there is a significant amount of funding that comes back to our city, not only to maintain that fleet, but also to replace that fleet at some period of time. And last year in '24, we had 2 big pieces of equipment that we were able to purchase through this program. Type 6 engine, the cost of that engine was about $320,000. We also purchased a Type 3 engine, and the cost of that was $514,000. And not a single dime of the purchase of those 2 vehicles came from local tax dollars. So almost $1 million of tax burden was relieved from our citizens because we are involved in the TIFMAS program. We've been able to get valuable equipment over the years for a rescue company, heavy-duty struts and extrication equipment, and that equipment is used every single, well, not every day, but it is available for use every single day for our city. And when these vehicles are not out on deployment,
they're here.
They're here. We would need them anyways. Mm-hmm. We sit at an urban interface right at the outside of the city limits. Even inside the city limits, we have heavy vegetation that could cause some pretty significant fire hazards. And everybody knows in San Angelo, every summer we go through a significant drought period, and we deploy our brush trucks every summer here locally. So to have these resources is at zero cost to our citizens, it's pretty huge impact. Not to mention the impact that we have statewide. We're building our reputation in the TIFMAS system with other departments. San Angelo is making a name for itself statewide. And we've deployed to California, all the way from little old San Angelo in the middle of Texas, deploying to Hollywood, California, fighting fires with some of the best wildland firefighters in the country. Yep. There's multiple impacts and multiple benefits for us to be in this program.
That's awesome. So when we talked a little bit about the money and how that works, but and we talked about the equipment, right? So being part of this thing and having this equipment when we're not on a deployment, that stuff is here in the city and available. What happens when they do go on deployment? So when these trucks are going to the Panhandle, to California, what's left here at home? Obviously the emergency, we're still having to run 911 here, so if something goes, do we still have enough here to still mitigate anything that's going to come in locally?
So San Angelo Fire Department's number one priority is to protect the citizens of San Angelo. We will never reduce our forces that would hinder any type of response in San Angelo. Currently we have 3 frontline brush trucks. We will never deploy more than 2 at a time. And about March we will receive our 3rd brush truck, and it will give us the capabilities to deploy 2, still have 2 at home, or deploy 3 and still have 1 at home. It depends upon the fire hazard here locally, how many vehicles I'm willing to allow to go out on deployment.
Right. Awesome.
There's another aspect that I do want to mention that is kind of behind the scenes that a lot of people don't get to see, but there is an incredible amount of work associated that resides in one position. So our administrative assistant, Stephanie Collins, she is responsible for 100% of the paperwork and the reimbursement package. And if it wasn't for her doing these reimbursements, we wouldn't be part of this program. We still would need somebody to do this program. So big shout out to Stephanie for what she does for our department and making sure that we get paid from the state.
Now I also want to say, I know, again, I get to see on a daily basis what Stephanie goes through, the administrative part and how much work goes there. I get to see how much Chief Fishers deals with when they're making these requests, trying to find the personnel, who's going to go, who can't go. They may be going for 2 weeks, they may be going for a month, right? That is, life goes on hold instantly. You got to go now, right? The other thing is training, right? Getting all of our personnel up to speed, so to say, in the wildland world, right? And we've got some pretty. We're lucky enough to have some personnel inside our department that are a pretty big deal in the wildland world, and they're right inside SAFD. And when y'all want to kind of touch on how important it is to have some people like that in your organization, to be able to train everyone and get them ready and prepare them for and keep us, at this top-notch level. One of y'all want to touch on
Chief Fisher, I'll let you touch on
some of those individuals in our department.
Yes, and I just want to add to what Chief Brody said about Stephanie, because reiterate what she does for the deployment package, for the reimbursement, and it is a lot of work that she does. So really appreciate what she does.
If none of that, if that's not stuff's not getting turned in, right? When we start talking about the money and the reimbursement, all that has to be accurate, and it is. Crossing T's, dotting I's.
She does a phenomenal job.
If us being involved in this program costs the citizens of San Angelo money, we would not be in the program.
Right.
So the importance of the reimbursement is allowing us to continue to be part of this program, because without receiving those reimbursements, we could not continue to be part of this. Yeah. So it is a huge responsibility, and it's a huge benefit to us that she is amazing at it and gets it done pretty efficiently.
Well, and going back to what I was saying, the amazing part, some of these, some of the personnel that we have inside, that came to us with some credentials, and then have just.
So we've got 2 individuals, Jade Hughes and Luke Wilkes. They both, prior to the San Angelo Fire Department, worked with the Texas Forest Service and other entities, so they had a wealth of knowledge in the wildland area. Right. So we are very fortunate to have them when we got into TIFMAS. We accelerated, I think, faster with what our progress was to have them involved with us. Right. Their knowledge is highly rated.
They are sharp.
I went to California with Jade Hughes. Yep. We're in California. We've got people from Oregon and Washington, and I'll just brag on Jade because I was with him, and he's legit in the wildland. Yeah, and Luke as well. They're both excellent, and so that has been really fortunate for San Angelo. As Chief Brody talked about, our representation in Texas is really good, and we've got a lot of great people in the TIFMAS. We got a lot of officers and firefighters that have really moved up put a lot of training, a lot of time, a lot of money, effort into building their experience and training. So we're very fortunate. We've got a lot of great people, but Jade and Luke have really, I think, been great to have on the team.
Well, not only current personnel, we have some former personnel that now they've moved on from their position here at San Angelo Fire, and now they are working for TIFMAS.
Exactly, yes, sir.
That's just, it kind of goes to speak just how important the TIFMAS program is to San Angelo and how involved we are, current personnel and now former personnel.
Yeah.
So we have
and
we have a battalion chief that moved on and now went
pretty high up in the TIFMAS realm.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. Well, good deal. Well, and I kind of moved. I'd like to move on kind of to our next topic. Chief Brody, I know that you took on a task not long ago, which was formulating a strategic plan for our department. I got to see firsthand how much time and effort went into it, and I was really glad you were doing it and not me. But tell us, man, what is a strategic plan? Why was it needed? Why'd you do it? And what is it setting the stage for moving forward?
About April last year, I come up with this grand idea that I'm going to do a strategic plan. And what I knew about what was involved in it was just the tip of the iceberg. And naively, I went into it thinking, a month, maybe 2 months, I can get in here and just write some goals for our organization for the next 5 to 10 years. Mm-hmm. A little bit of research. Found out that first and foremost that the fire chief by himself solely really does not have any business writing a strategic plan for the department. It should be based on gathering a group of stakeholders, including citizens, department representation, representation from city management, and all coming together and collectively coming up with ideas to meet our mission, meet the mission of the San Angelo Fire Department. So we set out, formed a committee, 13 individuals. We sat down in a room and we talked about, a lot of this was discussion, talked about if we could create the premier fire department, the golden standard that other departments would look up to. What would that look like? Lots of ideas circled around the tables. We had 3 different planning meetings, and in these planning meetings we came up with about 61 different objectives, 61 different initiatives that we wanted to pursue to strive for excellence. Additional planning meetings afterwards refined those different objectives down to 11 different working groups. And each one of those working groups would be categorized into a different division within the department. So fire division, EMS division, fire prevention division, emergency management division, special operations division. And we did a gap analysis, a community risk assessment of what are we missing? What service can we provide to our citizens that we're not currently providing? And a couple of these items absolutely rose to the top of the list. Some events that happened back last September. We need a true certified swift water team. We have trained personnel, but the equipment is where we're falling short. Now it is incumbent upon me to move forward to figure out how we can acquire this equipment, get more personnel trained, and have a fully certified swift water team. We also had a huge need to start developing, as the city is expanding, we need to expand with it. We've identified an area that is underserved and underprotected on the southwest section of town, and we need to build a 9th fire station. The city is expanding, we need to expand with it to meet those needs. Current run volume. We continuously look at run volume for EMS calls, and there is a metrics that I use to give us a good idea when it's time to start investigating an additional ambulance. We were very close to adding an additional ambulance. All of this was included in the strategic plan, and basically the strategic plan is a roadmap for the next 5 to 10 years of the organization. More involvement with TIFMAS, expanding our wildland fleet, There's others that I'm thinking of, so give me a minute.
Replacement, current equipment replacement?
So, and that was twofold, replacement of fire apparatus, and then also replacement of our ambulance fleet. The schedules for that. Re-looking at cost-saving measures for our ambulance fleet. Do we build brand new, or do we refurbish existing units and place them on a new chassis? Huge cost savings in that area, and that was analyzed. And some of these initiatives we are currently working on right now. So it was real easy to put it in the strategic plan. Some of these initiatives, when we start talking about adding personnel, it is a 5 to 10 year plan, because every time you add personnel, it costs money.
Right.
Every time you add apparatus, it costs money. Every time you build a fire station, it costs money. And figuring out the financial aspect of each one of these different initiatives takes time.
Yep.
And that's why it's a 5 to 10 year process.
Well, I do know, getting to be part of the strategic plan. Obviously, we were part of those working groups. There's a lot to be said. A lot of times in 911, right, we wait for the bad things to happen and we just show them to do the best we can. But going and sitting down and writing down, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? How are we going to get there? Sure does provide, for a department of 200 people, direction, and everybody see what that finish line is. Oh, that's what we're trying to do. I don't know that we've ever had a strategic plan as a fire department.
Whenever I started off on this task, like I said, naively, I thought I could do it myself. And again, I had no business doing it myself. We have every stakeholder has a voice, every member of the department has a voice, and it should be implemented in this plan. It took approximately 8 months to go from step one with, hey, I need to write a strategic plan, to the final product in November, completing that strategic plan. And this is the first written strategic plan for the fire department.
Awesome.
I'm pretty proud of the document. It is an evolving document, changes every year as we meet new goals or meet current goals, and then continue to add to it. So pretty excited about this, and it's a big step in the right direction.
So having talked about the strategic plan, I'd like to talk about a few things that you mentioned in that strategic plan. One of the ones being equipment. We do run volume. It's a lot, right? I mean, people think about their wear and tear on their own vehicles just in life, right? I mean, our job is to getting these vehicles and make tough runs, right? All over the city, and sometimes TIFMAS all over the state or all over this nation. Sometimes, how do we replace them? I know we've been very fortunate to replace several fire trucks. And about 2 ambulances a year, so I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that process. What is it? How long does it take to get fire trucks? And I know how involved this process is, so I don't want you to tell everybody everything, because we could do a whole show just on that. But how long does it take? How does it look like getting the money to pay for these trucks? And then how long are they going to last? How long before we have to start looking at replacing them again?
So let's start with the ambulance replacement. So the vehicle that receives the most wear and tear, because the most call volume is our ambulance. 75% of all of our call volume is EMS. An ambulance will traditionally run about 3 years frontline, and then we'll have it in a reserve status for approximately 3 years. So a 6-year life. And some people that don't realize the wear and tear on these vehicles, 6 years, that's not very long. Well, in the first 3 years of that ambulance life, it's going to put on over 100,000 miles. These aren't easy miles. No. These are hard miles. All in-town driving, all gas, all brake, because you're driving to an emergency call. Anywhere from 10 to 15 calls per day, with different crews swapping in and out, lots of movement in and out of the cab. Seats wear out. The vehicle gets, in a 3-year time, the vehicle gets worn out. So how do we replace it? So we are fortunate enough that city budget has allocated cash flows, the money needed to replace 2 ambulances every single year. And every year, the cost of ambulance continues to go up. That's why during the strategic plan, we looked at new and inventive ways to reduce the costs. So a new ambulance, and this is a sticker shock, is approximately $340,000. That's a new cabin chassis and a new box module. That does not include any equipment in that ambulance. $340,000.
And we have 13 ambulances.
And we have 13 ambulances, and they last 6 years.
Yep.
So how can we reduce that cost? I talked about refurb. It's commonly referred to as a remount. Basically, they take that box module, they remove every soft surface in it that could be contaminated with any number of things, and they replace it. They replace any electrical modules. They will also replace the flooring in there, reconstruct that ambulance box module, and place it on a brand new chassis. Well, what does that cost? It saves about $110,000 per unit per year. Now, those cost savings are passed on to our citizens.
Right.
Because we could just say, no, we need a new one every year, but a box module will traditionally last 20 to 25 years depending upon wear and tear, and it can be remounted up to 3 separate times. Okay, now let's talk about the fire truck side. NFPA recommends a engine, a fire truck, a pumper, to be replaced every 15 years. A ladder truck is extended just a little bit because it doesn't have as high of a call volume. Its recommendations every 20 years. So we, in San Angelo, we take very good care of our vehicles. Our run volume is moderate. It's not extreme like what you might expect in the Metroplex. Right. So we do get a full 15 years out of a lot of our vehicles. Now let's talk about costs and delivery times. This is where it starts to get tricky, and we have to play a very strategic game. Current production on most engines is over 3 years. Heavy rescue trucks and ladder trucks, production is about 4 years. So when you start approaching that end of useful life on that vehicle, you need to have the funding available 4 years before it's time to replace those vehicles.
So so on a ladder truck, you're at year 16, you're thinking about year 20 of service life.
At year 12, you're planning on that vehicle needs to be replaced because it's going to take 2 to 3 to 4 years to come up with the funding to purchase that ladder. Yeah. So when it's year 16, it needs to be purchased. Right. So by year 20, it can be replaced.
Well, that's why you're the fire chief. I can't even. I'm a fireman. I can't count real good.
So I will tell you the cost of the fire apparatus over the last 10 years has gone up tenfold. And a lot of this because it comes with EPA emission standards, crash avoidance. A fire truck is no longer. Let's look at the standard vehicle. 10 years ago, how many electronics were in a standard vehicle? How many navigation systems were in a vehicle? Right. How many vehicles nowadays drive by themselves? Yeah. So all this technology has bled over into the fire service, and then a lot of NFPA standards have mandated a lot of these changes to take effect, and it has done nothing but raise the cost of a vehicle. So again, the funding for this is, finance and budget, cash flow, we allocate a certain amount of dollars every year to come up with the funding to purchase a vehicle. The schedule to keep us on a 15-year / 20-year replacement is in a 3-year period, we purchase two trucks, and that'll keep us on about a 15-year replacement.
Awesome, cool. Well, I know it's a big process. You know, when I think all of us, even as kids, you know, and a lot of the public appearances that we go to, I mean, that is the visual representation of the fire department is a fire truck, right? And when we go to these things, a fire truck. But the process that goes into purchasing that fire truck, speccing out, getting that fire truck here, and then replacing that fire truck, I know it's a lot. So I really wanted to talk about how we, you know, when our public are seeing these ambulances and seeing these fire trucks, what process goes to them even getting here, you know? The color they are, the striping that's on them, the lights, all of it, you know?
So what is the cost of a new engine?
So in 2024, we replaced engine 3 and engine 5. 15 years ago, when engine 5 rolled in brand new shiny into the station, I was just a driver. And I remember asking the fire chief.
You were young then.
I was young then.
Younger.
So I remember asking the fire chief how much it cost. And why I remember this, I don't know, but it was about $250,000. That was 15 years ago. We just replaced engine 5, and it cost $900,000. And currently, if I were to spec one out right now, it would be over $1 million. In a 15-year period, the price of that vehicle's tripled. Wow. It's incredible. incredible amount of money that a fire apparatus costs nowadays. But again, I explained on some of the reasons as to why. Whenever you are trying to spec out a vehicle, we do have a standard spec that we use now because we have refined that over the years to meet the needs of our department. So it's a little easier now, but if we were to scrap that design and start from the very beginning, you can customize every single aspect of a fire engine to the point where it would take a long time to write every single specification. So we use the model that we currently have. If there is something we want to change, we address those little changes.
Well, that gives us continuity in our fleet, right? You know, exactly. You talked about different shifts, right? So we have 3 shifts. There's about 50 plus people on each shift. So you got a lot of different people coming and sitting in that truck. So as they're at Station 2 or Station 5, at least hopefully, right, they get behind a truck that looks just like the one that they saw the day before.
Uniformity to me is a really big deal. I want a guy to go from, or a gal, I want personnel to go from Station 2 to Station 3, and that vehicle be very, very similar to what they have at their home station. And the same is to be said with the ambulances. I want every medication, I want every needle located in the exact same place, so no matter where they're at on any rig, they know where stuff is at, and it's familiar to them. Standardization.
Well, we all know in second counts, there's no time for this compartment's different. Oh, this shelf's different, right? You know, it is huge to be able to reach up and go, I know it's here. You know,
so a big difference.
No, that's a big deal. So moving on from the equipment and the fleet, I'd like to talk a little bit about Station 9. I think that's something that we've been talking about for a long time. You talked about an underserved portion of San Angelo and why Station 9 is needed. So first of all, talk a little bit about why it's needed. You know, why there? We know San Angelo is always moving and expanding, but talk a little bit about Station 9 and why the location. And then I'll kind of ask you a couple questions on how we've gotten to where we're at right now and where are we going.
Okay. So as you start planning for the future, you want to look at a needs assessment for the community. So I have a fire station map in my office that provides coverage zones for each fire station. And each one of these coverage zones is about a 3-mile circle. And when you look at the map, you step back and you look at the map.
I thought that was just like a painting in your office.
It's not a painting.
Is that what those circles are?
That's what those circles are. It does have a purpose.
I always wondered what those are.
See what you've learned.
If you step back,
I learned a lot on scene.
On scene,
for sure.
If you step back and look at that map, there's a glaring hole in the middle of it. Not in the middle of it, but down the southwest part of San Angelo. And 15 years ago, the population in that area was very small. But as we have expanded southwest, we've annexed some property out there, that need has increased dramatically. So in 2022, whenever the Insurance Service Organization office came in, they evaluated our fire department, our water infrastructure, and our dispatch system, and they gave us a superior rating of a 1. The consultant that looked at this identified that specific area as being underserved. Well, that area was already identified by the fire department as being underserved, but with limited population.
A lot of that has to do with response time, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
so
where our stations are and how long it takes them to get if there was an emergency in that area.
Right. So the NFPA recommends a 4-minute response time, where ISO has a different perspective on it. Their recommendation is there should not be any residential or commercial structure greater than 5 road miles from a given fire station, and then on top of that, it should not be more than 1,000 feet from a fire hydrant. A lot of the codes that we have in the city is to meet those standards. This neighborhood in particular that I'm speaking of, they had a hydrant infrastructure in place. But it's not or, it's and. 5 miles and within 1,000 feet of a fire hydrant. This neighborhood was just outside of that 5-mile area. And whenever you look at response times, it was 7 to 8 minute response time to this neighborhood. There's a need there. So then we started down the process. We've identified the need. Now we need to do something about it. And it takes time. It takes a lot of time. That section of town is currently being developed. And has been developed for a while. So the availability of land was a real challenge. There is available land out there, but a lot of people did not want to sell. Right. And we spent every bit of a year and a half just trying to find a suitable piece of property. There were other properties, but they were not where that fire station needed to be located. Right. We could purchase the land and put a station there, and then in 10 years, that station would need to be moved. Right. That is not the best interest of our city. Right. So that station is a 30 to a 50-year commitment. So we need to make sure that it not only serves our community today, 10 years from now, it needs to be able to serve our community at least 50 years from now as the city expands and us forecasting where the city is going to the best of our ability.
So do we have the land?
We have the land.
Awesome.
So
I already knew the answer. I wanted you to be able to say it out loud.
So 2.5 years ago, I began this process of looking for a piece of property, and several properties I investigated and did some work on to purchase, and they fell through, and for different reasons. Ultimately, we landed on a piece of property. It is right off of a street called the Crossings, and it is at the corner of the Crossings and Ben Ficklin. The site is a little bit elevated. It is, once you get up to the elevation, it is flat. There is some site work to be done. The site is almost 3 acres, and it will absolutely accommodate a fire station equivalent to, if y'all are familiar with Station 5, 7, and 4, it will accommodate a station of at least that size, and I'm looking at adding an additional engine bay onto it for some of our special operations equipment to be parked.
So we've got the land.
You got the land.
Now we got to prepare the site, and we got to build a fire station. Right?
So
what goes into that?
No, slow down. We're not ready to build yet. So there's a lot to go into it before you ever break ground. First of all, you have to secure an architect, and we have to get building plans and site plans, and then once those site plans are developed, we can get a cost estimation. Let's not forget, everything takes money. Once I get a cost estimation, then we need to figure out how we are going to fund this fire station. The Assistance to Firefighter Grant Program, that is through FEMA, they do not have a grant that builds fire stations. They have a grant that will remodel but not build fire stations. Our emergency management, Jose Rivera, emergency manager, he has got a lot of expertise in grant writing. We also have another individual on the department that has expressed a lot of interest and has been very successful in acquiring grants for our department. Both of those are actively looking for a grant to pay for this station. August Pfluger has some congressional funding available that usually comes open in March. We were not able to apply for this grant last year because one of the parameters of the grant is you have to own the property before you can apply for it. It is our intention to go full force into this grant this next year for the discretionary funds, and hopefully we're successful. If we get a portion of it funded, if we get some of it funded, or none of it funded, none would be terrible. 100% funded is a home run. Right. So that's what I'm shooting for. And any grant that we receive as an organization, again, is a relief of tax burden for our citizens. So we actively pursue any grant that we can go after, and this is a big one that we're hoping to get.
What about, and I know this is a hard thing to forecast, but timeline. Realistic. I know a lot of that has to do with funding and what becomes available, but what's your goal? What is your strategic plan?
ISO kind of set that timeline for me. So 2.5 years ago when they came in 2022, they are on a 5-year rotation. They identified this need, and in the final report, they mentioned that if we do not have a 9th fire station when they come back for reassessment, that we will drop to a classification of a 2. San Angelo has never regressed in classification, so there's my motivation factor to get it done. We've got about 2.5 years left, and it is not reasonable to think that we will be finished in 2.5 years, but we have to begin the process before ISO is scheduled to come back. Once we break ground, a reasonable timeline from groundbreaking is about 2 years. So, clock's ticking.
Here we go.
Clock's ticking.
Obviously, if we're adding a station, that also means we're going to have to add people
and equipment.
And equipment, right? If you're going to add a fire station, you got to have people, you got to have firefighters in there, and you also got to have fire trucks to drive. right? So I mean, I know that that's part of that process, and I know that again we could do a whole show just on this alone, but just talk a little bit about that. You know, obviously, not only are you working actively, get the land, build the station, but then what comes after that as well.
So forecasting the needed personnel to increase our staffing. Obviously, with an additional engine company, we have 3 shifts, so you're going to have personnel for the engine company on all 3 shifts. You're also going to have, I talked a little bit about our EMS and how we are approaching that threshold for adding additional ambulance. With the addition of this 9th fire station, the timeline is going to line up almost exactly to add the 7th first out ambulance. So those personnel, 2 personnel on the ambulance, and we have 3 shifts there. Now, what are we doing to possibly offset the cost of these new personnel? FEMA does have a grant. It's called a
Safer grant.
SAFER grant. What's it?
Too many grants. You got too many acronyms in your head.
Yes.
Safer grant.
So it's
A lot of
SAFER grant.
acronyms.
And the easy version of what the SAFER grant is basically it pays for 100% of your personnel the first year, and each year after that it drops off 25%.
We've been fortunate enough to receive that in the past.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. I can't remember what year that was, but I know we were able to add some personnel.
2018, 19.
2018, we were successful being awarded the SAFER grant. The police department has received a SAFER grant. Our intention is to once funding is secured for the station, then I will proceed forward with applying for the SAFER grant to offset the cost of these personnel. And also talking about an addition of a 9th frontline fire engine.
Right.
And we've already talked about how expensive those are.
Yep.
And a 7th first out ambulance. So there's a lot of funding to be figured out.
I know that, again, getting to hear the progression of Station 9, when you say new station, everybody, including our personnel, man, it's exciting, right? New fire station. Man, I know how much work it is, and I just wanted you to be able to get to speak to how much goes into a project like that. But that is something exciting for our citizens and for our personnel that's coming. You mentioned EMS, right? So that's kind of obviously my job at San Angelo Fire Department is mostly EMS. But I want to talk a little bit about EMS. We've currently just recently added something pretty big at San Angelo Fire Department in the EMS realm. As you know, everybody at San Angelo Fire Department has to be a firefighter and a paramedic to work, which means they have to. And we'll talk about recruitment here in a second. But we train everyone. So when you show up, we train you. We put you through a fire school. We get you a certification as a firefighter. We also put you through school to become a paramedic and become licensed as a paramedic. In the past, we've used other organizations to be able to achieve that paramedic licensure. But now we are going to get to do it.
Something big.
We're going to get to do it, or attempt to do it in-house,
right.
And do it right inside, our own department. So I want to talk a little bit about our paramedic accreditation process. Just a little bit. I'll let kind of both y'all and us, all of us, talk about kind of what that is and what that means for not only the fire department, for the medical field locally in our region, in our state. That we're kind of on the map and not only can train our own personnel, but train other personnel.
So I'll start off a little bit of history lesson. So whenever I got hired, we had our own in-house paramedic program. At that point, it was at the state level, and individual entities could have a paramedic program without acquiring any sort of accreditation. About 2013, everything.
So I was the last.
Were you?
So I got hired in 2009. I was the last in-house paramedic group.
Right.
So right after my class, that's when we transitioned to using, Howard College as our accrediting program, so to say. But so I was the very last one. So 2009.
2013, everything changed, and the state mandated that a paramedic program be given through an accredited university, accredited college. So Chief Dunn at the time worked with Howard College, set up a program with Howard College, brought paramedicine back to Howard College. We trained and certified their lead instructor and their program chair, Travis Hunter.
He was in my class.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, we were in class together.
This process, even though it didn't change until 2013, this process started well before that, so we could be ready for this national change or this state change. So we trained the program chair, Travis Hunter, started the program with Howard College and built Howard College's accreditation program. And I say that because that's really important. So since then, all of our paramedic classes have gone through Howard College. Mm-hmm. And we have a wonderful relationship with Howard. They have helped us produce the medics that we need to be able to get them certified and do this role. Approximately 5 years ago, Howard College's needs have kind of changed a little bit, and they started transitioning. They wanted to transition their classroom to a more traditional college classroom. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, a few hours here and there. Well, to complete their paramedic program in-house, it's going to take about 2.5 years. Well, that does not work for us, right, because we have personnel that we have got to get them out there, get them trained.
People retiring, exactly. We need to replace them.
Our academy was already about 18 months long, right, and then pushing just the paramedic portion of that to 2.5 years just didn't work for us. Mm-hmm. So we sat down with Howard and we came up with a new plan that we would provide our own instructor, and then we would use their accreditation in order to have our 18-month program. So we continued on with that for a few years. Well, about 2.5 years ago, about 2 years ago now actually, Travis Hunter came over to us. Yes. And at that point, we started the plan, the vision of getting San Angelo fully accredited through the national accreditation. Mm-hmm. And Travis Hunter, he had done this program. He has built a program at 3 different organizations. I knew he had the skills and the knowledge to do it. I recruited him to do this here because the future of this organization is to make sure that we secure our paramedic program in the future generation of this department. Well, over the last 2 years, Travis has tirelessly worked and worked. Documentation. It's taken 2 years for a reason, yeah, because there's an incredible amount of work that is associated with it. And just November?
It was about October or November.
October, we received our letter of review from the accreditation body that we will have a year in review, a fully accredited year in review, and then after that year they'll come back, reevaluate us, and if we meet all of their standards, then we'll have our accreditation for a 7-year period. 90%, 99% of this accreditation falls solely on Travis's efforts. Mm-hmm. He made it happen.
He absolutely did. It was impressive, yes, to see the process and what he went through, and then the end product. Obviously, we came in and were interviewed basically as they're looking at trying to give us a letter of review. So all the strategic positions in our department, were asked questions, mm-hmm, and just seeing what went into it was just unbelievable.
Yeah. So what's the impact of the organization? Mm-hmm. Number one, we secure our future. Our training program is on our schedule now. We control how many students we have, we control the timeline, we control the schedule, and we can guarantee that we have a program for future. And what else does it mean? You mentioned outside students, training the region, training the area, training the state. With us having our own accredited program, we can allow civilians into our program, which, number one, we're training our region, we're increasing the paramedics in our region, which is a benefit to the society as a whole. But then again, it also is a revenue stream for our department. Right. So we can offer our paramedic class to outside students. They reimburse us for the cost of that class. Those fundings can go back into, mm-hmm, the program to make it better, build equipment, replenish some of the stock from the academy, and basically pay for itself. Instead of being red on the balance sheet, it's now black.
Right. Well, not only that, so as somebody that is pretty heavily involved in recruitment for people, trying to get people to come to apply to the fire department, if for whatever reason they haven't applied or not in that application process, but then they, hey, I want to go get my paramedic license. Oh, I can go to San Angelo Fire Department, pay them, get my license, and while they're in there, we say, hey, we think you'd be a great addition. Why don't you go ahead and come and apply? Both both the applicant itself and the department now are getting acquainted with one another, right? So we've got a pretty good idea of what kind of medic they're going to be. What do they just? I mean, it's good for recruitment as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it gives us an opportunity to vet that personnel before we make it a commitment to hire them.
Right. So, there's a lot of, we are not the only EMS game in town, right? We have private services here in town that are allowed to be in San Angelo. They have permits, through the ordinance. So, I mean, there is a workforce, I guess you say, and then several, smaller communities outside San Angelo that they need paramedics, right? And so to be able to provide, not only train our own applicants or employees, to be able to have the ability to train people in our region and produce paramedics for all of
West
Tom Green
Texas.
all of Tom Green
West,
counties and Tom Green County and adjoining counties. I mean, it's a pretty big deal. It's a really big deal.
Yeah.
So I know it's again another shout out to Travis Hunter. I know what went into that. It's something that I know that we're really proud of as a San Angelo Fire Department. We really need to be proud of as a city because, like you said, I mean we really are going to be having the ability to train paramedics for all of West Texas.
Yeah.
So. And a traditional paramedic program is 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. And one of the benefits of our program, it's accelerated. 18 months from no certification, get through basic EMT all the way through paramedic, and now you're ready to go to work.
Yep.
And some people might say, well, that's an 18-month program. What did y'all cut out? Absolutely nothing.
Right.
The hours are the same, the curriculum the same as that 2.5-year program. The difference is you go to school from 8 to 5 every single day.
Yep.
So the person is able to get through the program much quicker than going 2 to 4 hours a day at a traditional classroom.
Well, I mentioned recruitment just then. Let's talk a little bit about recruitment, right? I always tell people, I guess kind of as the recruiter for San Angelo Fire Department, people ask me, y'all hiring? Yes, all the time.
All the time.
Right? We, of our 200 personnel, we have people that, leave for whatever reason or they retire, so, we're always needing new people. We talked about adding a station and possibly adding personnel, so, recruiting, we are always recruiting. So let's talk a little bit about, are we hiring? What does that process look like? How do you apply to the fire department? What does this job entail? And some of the programs that we have in place where you can come in and see what we do. So let's talk a little bit about
I'll let you talk about that.
I'll talk about the are we hiring? Yes.
Yeah, so I'll touch on are we hiring. So currently we're overstaffed. And the reason for that is I had forecast some retirements and that are coming in 2025. And I know those retirements are coming. I don't know the exact day, but they are coming. So I have waited just a little bit to offer another civil service exam. And my timeline for giving that exam is going to be March to April of this year. Traditionally, we give it around January. But knowing that we're a little bit overstaffed, I pushed that test for just a few months in order to wait for those retirements and wait for those staffed levels to come down to our authorized level. So how do you apply? Well, you apply on the second floor of City Hall at HR. And if we don't actively have a test posted, they will take your application they'll take you all year round. Right. Mm-hmm. And whenever a test date is assigned or picked, our HR department will notify you when to show up for your civil service exam. And that is step one. Step one is to apply. Mm-hmm. And step two is you take the civil service exam.
You can. A lot of people always ask me, well, I'm waiting for y'all to post a test. Don't wait. If you're even considering applying to the fire department, you need to go ahead and apply. It doesn't matter what month of the year it is, go ahead and get that application in. Once a test date is announced, you're already ready to go. You'd be notified, hey, it's been announced, the test date's gonna be blank and your application is received. Yeah. A couple ways to get the application. You can get right on the internet, simple search, San Angelo Fire Department application, or you can go to the city's website, go to the fire, they have the different departments, go to the fire department and there's just an application guide and you can print that application right off. You can go and hand deliver it to second floor Human Resources San Angelo Fire or of City Hall, or you can, I believe you can even email them. Find someone at HR. You can call HR, find out who that needs to be sent to, but you can scan and email that application in as well. And they can reach out anytime, right? A lot of times when you're applying, have questions, right? I'm not sure what they're asking. What do they mean here? How do I get this? Do you really need this? How much do you need here? They can always call Central Fire Station. I'm sure Brian's going to put it right down here somewhere on the screen. But you can always call. You can ask for me, right? And I'll walk you through that process. But the first step's hiring, right? Then we announce the test. We announce that civil service test and schedule it. So we do a written civil service exam, and that's a pass-fail. If you pass that, then you move on to the physical exam, which is also generally about a month after that written test. That's also a pass-fail. It's a timed event. You have to, obviously meet your time, and then if you do, you move on to the next phase, which is our background check. It's a pretty extensive background check. We all want to speak to this, but we're a lot of responsibility in our job. We're driving $1 million vehicles. We're showing up to people's houses when they're unconscious or incapacitated sometimes, and being trusted to enter those homes. Yep. Very important that we know who we're hiring and what kind of person they are, what their background looks like, what their character looks like, and who they're going to be. Yep. So that they can be trusted by the public to be in these situations. So that background check phase, then you either basically make it through that background phase, or for whatever reason you're disqualified. Once that clears, then I guess we move into our oral interview. We move into a polygraph, and that's really just kind of checking. You've put everything on paper. We just want to see if you're going to tell us the truth, And then we move into oral interviews, and which is a panel interview from several leaders in our organization. Just kind of, asking them questions, finding out who they are, what do they believe, and are they a good fit for our organization? So it's a long process,
Yeah, it is.
and it's a long process for a reason. As somebody who went through that process twice trying to get on the fire department, the first time I tried, I didn't make it. I was pretty frustrated.
Is it about eight months?
Yes, it's about 8 to 9 months. 8 to 9 months, depending on our needs and how quick it needs to go. But not getting hired the first time, I was pretty upset. Turned around and reapplied. I knew what I wanted to do. Go through that process again, and then getting hired. And now, fast forward 16 years later, I absolutely understand why it's a 9-month process. I mean, it's very important that we're picky about who we're getting, and what kind of person and employee they're going to be.
But when you're going through the process, you don't understand that, and it's easy to get discouraged. And I would ask our applicants, just be resilient.
Right.
This is the process, and it's in place for a reason. And I'll just touch a little bit on the one thing that I would add to the hiring process is after the written examination, the applicants are they are ranked on an eligibility list based on their test score, and they will stay at that position until they are either removed from the list from a pass or a failure of another event, or they are offered a position. Now, because we are a civil service organization, we are mandated to go down to hire off of that list. So the importance of turning your application in sooner rather than later. So if you tie another applicant and all things are equal, your test score is equal, if you turned in your application before that other person, you will move higher on the list than them. And one position, how significant can that be? Well, if I'm hiring 7 people and you're number 8, it could be very significant.
And also, not only getting hired into the fire department, when your
first promotion is based on your hire date.
Fast forward, you're wanting to become the assistant chief of the San Angelo Fire Department, you take a test, right? And everything's equal, years of service is equal, everything's equal all the way back to that application date. That can absolutely have...
it follows you.
It does. It follows you your entire career. So very important. The cool thing, and one of the things I like to always talk about when I talk about recruiting, a lot of people see our job or hear some of the stuff we're talking about today and go, oh, wow, man, that's awesome. I want to be a part of that. But man, I don't really have any experience in like firefighting, or I don't know anything about it, or medical field. Oh, I don't really know anything about the medical field. The great thing about who can apply, right? You don't have to have any prereqs or pre-qualifications to apply to the fire department. You got to be at least 18. Can't be any older than 35, and you got to have a high school diploma or a GED. And that's it. If you've got those things, you can apply to the fire department, and we will. You go through that process, we hire you, and then we put you on payroll, right? Put you on salary, you start getting paid, and then we train you, right? And right now, We train you all in-house, right? We put you through a fire school, get you that certification as a firefighter, and then put you through our in-house, at the moment, paramedic program, get you licensed as a paramedic, and you come out a licensed firefighter in the state of Texas or certified firefighter in the state of Texas and a licensed paramedic. So, it's you don't have to have anything to apply. I always like to put that out there. Some people think, oh, I just can't do that. Yes, you can. Yeah. Yes, you can. We also have a ride-out program. I kind of want to talk about this. It has been we added this several years ago. Chief Fisher worked with me in our city legal getting this ride-out program set up, which was set up for citizens that just want to come see what we do, but also a try before you buy type situation for recruitment. Our job's tough, as you know. We see some pretty tough things, put under some pretty stressful situations. And a lot of people don't know how they're going to react, or if they can even, we show up and we see these, oh my goodness, things, right? But then we have to go to work. And a lot of times, not everybody can do that, right? So we created this ride-out program where you can sign a release. If you're a minor, you could get your parent or guardian to sign a release, but you could come and ride out with us on the fire trucks and on the ambulances in an observer role to kind of see, what do we do? What's it like to be a firefighter or a paramedic in San Angelo, Texas, and what does that look like? What does our day look like? We've had several people that utilize this, but it's been pretty influential, in recruitment, but also in just, our public knowing what we do. What is our job and what does it entail? So, if that's something you're interested in, you can reach out to us at San Angelo Fire Department at Central Fire Station. Again, ask for Chief Fisher or myself. We can get you set up with all the needed, liability waivers and releases to be able to do something like that and then get it scheduled. So, but pretty cool program. Last thing I want to talk about is one of the pretty important and pretty large project that we have going on San Angelo Fire Department right now. I know it was kind of born with the strategic plan and it kind of launched us in this, but Chief Brody, let's talk a little bit about best practices and what it is and why we're doing it, and I'll just kind of let you talk and speak to it a little bit.
Okay, so again, about April last year, so every fire chiefs conference, they talk about best practices, and the first couple conferences I went to didn't really pay much attention to it because I didn't know what it was. As I started digging into it, I started to figure out that what I discovered was best practices is nothing but a set of standards. Okay, the Texas Fire Chiefs Association created and modeled after the national accreditation for fire departments. They modeled this program and they brought it in-house locally to the state of Texas. And they have a list of standards, objectives, if you will, that you should be meeting as a fire service to be providing a superior service to your community. And essentially, when you apply for this program, you are opening the door and asking for an outside party to come in and evaluate how good of a job you're doing as an organization. When I dug into it, I said, I want to do that. I want to know where our gaps lie. I want to know if we're not providing a service to our citizens that we should, if we're not doing a process like we should. So I'm going to allow this third party to come in and evaluate us. So digging into the program, I'm looking through the different objectives, the different chapters, that's what they call them, the best practices. So you've got an administrative chapter. Do you have a mission statement? Do you have a strategic plan? Well, how do you know where you're going if you don't have a roadmap to get there? And that's what the strategic plan is. A lot of the objectives with this best practices, our fire department is already doing. But I want that reassurance that we are doing it to the best of our ability. Statewide, there are 35 fire departments that have received best practices, been recognized by the best practices organization. There are thousands of fire departments in the state. So as we come out of this evaluation, number one, our policies and procedures are going to be reevaluated and brought up to current standards, if they are not already there. Our operations, we're going to make sure that we're providing the highest level of service to our citizens, not because I say it, it's because a third party came in here and confirmed what we've been saying. But as we come out of this, we'll be ranked as one of the top fire departments in the state of Texas Hopefully we'll be number 36. I don't know if somebody will beat us there or not. But the amount of work that's associated with this is vast. And when I first looked at it, there's no way one person can do this. So then again, developed a committee of 12 different individuals. There's 12 chapters, and each individual has, we have 13 actually, because there's 2 people in one chapter. Each chapter has been assigned to different individuals, and we're currently providing that gap analysis of our current program before that a third party comes in to evaluate us. We're doing our own self-evaluation, filling in where we need to. We've already put in the application, and within a month, we are going to be deep into it. My goal is by June of this year, all of our document submissions have been turned into Texas Fire Chiefs. Mm-hmm. And then this summer, we'll have a site visit from this organization to come verify that everything we've told them we're actually doing. Right. And after that, best practices designation. It's a really big deal for San Angelo. It will provide the assurance to our citizens, city staff, and our membership that San Angelo Fire Department is not just a fire department that comes to work and does their job every day. Number one, we're an ISO 1 rated fire department. That is a superior rating. Statewide, Texas Fire Chiefs Association best practices. The citizens of our community can be rest assured that they're being protected by the top of the line fire service. Awesome. So, very excited. A lot of work to be done.
The best practices is a lot. You know, Chief Fisher and I are part of the committee and have a section, and I know that you know, just the other day when we're looking at this, it's a lot. There's a lot to be done there, but it really is. I mean, you see, there's a lot of things, like I said, we're already doing, but to go in and actually formulate and say, this is how, this is
and
what.
I think you mentioned it for us to be the best that we can be and to see where we fall short or not, and what can we do to improve to be better for our citizens.
No, it is. It's. I know it's going to be. It's a long process, but I mean, already just a few days in to kind of working through some things, it is very apparent that there are a few holes, right? And there are some things that, oh man, we've always been doing it this way. We just, man, look, we need to write it down. We need to put it down, and so everybody can see it. So
I can really appreciate how the Texas Fire Chiefs Association built this program. Yeah. Chief Henley mentions in his introduction video that it should mean something. Mm-hmm. Anything worth having is worth working for. Right. This thing, this whole program is a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of effort from our end. But again, it shouldn't be easy, or everybody would have it. There's a reason why only 35 departments have it, because it should be prestigious, and it should. Everybody gets a trophy mentality. Shouldn't come into play whenever you're rating a fire service.
Well, let's talk about the trophy, right? Achieving, the way I understood is achieving best practices, right? If you are able to achieve it, you do get this trophy, but they could take it away, right? This is an ongoing thing. Forever. This is not a, hey, you achieved best practices, good for you, y'all are top notch. This is, you've achieved it, and we're going to come back and make sure that you maintain it and sustain it.
Right. So we don't really get a trophy, but we do get a plaque. So this designation or this recognition of best practices, you're right. Whenever you're awarded best practices, you're immediately reevaluated the next year. So it is a 7-year recognition, but every year you have to apply for re-recognition. They don't analyze your entire department over that 7-year period. They break those 12 chapters up into 2 chapters each year. But immediately the next year, you're going up for a re-evaluation of a section or 2 sections of the program. Yeah. And at the 7-year mark, your entire system is re-evaluated. And if at year 1, if you don't meet the new standards, then they revoke your recognition. Right. So it's a big program. I'm really excited about it.
So it really is. I mean, when we talk about improving our fire department, being able to achieve that, and then what it's going to take to be able to maintain that, sure does pretty impressive. I mean, it will be. So, well, man, that's kind of all I've got. Unless you guys have a few more things you want to talk about.
There was hardly anything we talked about today.
It was a lot of stuff. There's I mentioned at the beginning that I've been wanting to have this scene or this episode for a while. Kind of talk to you two about just everything that's happening. I know we only scraped the surface. I just picked the big things that I thought were going to be be cool to talk about and explain. But again, I want to thank you both for one, your service to the city of San Angelo, the citizens of San Angelo, and just tell you how much I think about you two as people, and then as bosses. So, you know, I think the city's lucky to have both of you, and Chief Sanders as well. And thank you for everything you guys do for the personnel of San Angelo Fire Department and citizens of the city of San Angelo and Tom Green County. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
appreciate it. So, well, you know, we miss Joey. Hopefully he'll be here next time. But for On Scene, I'm Mason Matthews.